This is Paul, and we're going to have a little table working clinic here. There's, as this thing shows here, there's essentially five positions here. There's an announcer who's going to say what the dive's going to be, and the most important, really all people have to know is there's two people who write down the scores from the dives, and then one or usually two who then calculates a running total for what the dive is actually worth, and then a secretary at the very end who kind of does the, okay, who wins, who loses, that kind of thing. So we'll go through step by step. So they have dive sheets. So people here position, I guess what you call 2 and 3. 2 is going to have the sheet, an actual dive sheet. They're going to write the scores on. Person 3 is not going to have a dive sheet. They're going to pad a paper and they're going to do exactly the same thing as person 1 and check person 1's math. So our diver is Megan. And she's going to do, the announcer is going to say, okay, first up is Megan. She's going to do a dive number 101, a front dive in the pike position. That's B, DD 1.3. Great. And she does her dive, and it's a reasonable dive. And her scores, they say, scores please. We hold up the scores. You listen to the announcer, and the announcer says, scores are 4.5, 4, 6, 5, 5. The half, you indicate by a little tick mark right there. Okay, so 4.5, 4.5, 6, 5, 5. You throw out the high, it's a 6. Hush up, boy. You throw out the low, 4.5, and you add these 3 scores. 4 and 5 is 9, and 5 is 14. Don't forget the half. You write down 14.5. Person 2 is doing Megan's scores. 4.5, 4.5, 6. Well, they do it this way. 4.5, 4.5, 6. 5, 5, throughout the high, throughout the low. 4 and 5 is 9, and 5 is 14.5, 14.5. So when this person is done writing it down, they send it to person 2. Person 2 says, there's a 14.5, I got a 14.5, all is good. Move on to person 3. And that's all these 2 people do. Hi, I'm back again. So we would, position 1 and 2 adds up raw numbers, right? These numbers here, you get basically a number like that. Well, that's not very useful because a front dive is worth a lot less than a triple twisty dive. And so that's where the degree of difficulty comes in. And we have a little calculator here, which is a little slide rule thing, that you move the black thing on degree of difficulty, and then the raw value becomes a corrected value, right? So at a degree of difficulty of 2.0, a dive that scores 10 points now gets you 20. So when the announcer says, Megan's going to do a front dive DD 1.3, stick it on 1.3, right there. 1.3. So now when you position 3 gets a piece of paper saying 14.5, you find 14.5, 18.85, and you write in 18.85. And the next person confirms, yep, 14.5, 18.85, we're good. And that's the end of the piece of paper. And then all the divers come down, and all sheets of paper then go back to the announcer, and he says, okay, we're starting round 2. And round 2, and Megan's going to do a back dive in the straight position, DD 1.6, which means... Yeah. So I think what we've done so far is we've gone through like what you call one round of Megan going from the raw score of 14.5 to an adjusted score of 18.5. All the kids go. Next, now Megan's do a back dive. Back dive straight, DD 1.6. Person number 3 goes to 1.6. Great. Megan's scores are 5, 5.5, 5.5, 6, 5.5. The 6 is gone. The 5 is gone. 5 and 5 and 5 is 15. And 3 halves is 16.5. 16.5, check. This person wrote down 5, 5, hopefully 5, 5, 5.5, 6, 5.5. High, low, gone. Okay, 6.5, perfect. Go to position 3. 16.5. 16.5 is the raw score with a DD of 1.6. 16.5, 1.6, 26.40. 26.40. Okay. Person 3 says, I got an 18.85, 26.40. What's the sum of them? 5, 2, carry the 1, 5, 45. 45.25. That's the end of the first 2 rounds. That's her adjusted score. It's going to sit there. And all the kids come through. And at the end of the whole thing, we're going to get a final score, the sum of all 3 dives. That final score is the score here. And at the end of the round, some kids got a big number. Some kids got a small number. The biggest number's on top, the second number's below it. You shuffle the papers. You got a winner. You got second place, third place, fourth place, fifth place. The person at the end meets secretary, has these in order, says, okay, Person number 1 is Megan. She got a 66.95, first place. Find her name on the label. 66.95 is the score. Stick it on the first place ribbon. Boom. Who's second place? Second place is Johnny. Johnny got a 66.2. So you get a 2. You find his name. You put the score on the label. You stick it on second place. And you do this until you're done.
And
That's it. Announcer does the announcing. Position, this position, this position. They write it down. Raw score. They check it. This person with the DD form, and if it jumps a 0.8 table, because we don't have 0.8s on this, you write down the numbers down, and you add them up. You get a sum after 2 dives, and then the last person brings them back to the beginning, and that's it so far. So,
Okay.
all right, kick ass.